The Lost City is a new romantic comedy film starring Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum, Daniel Radcliffe, Divine Joy Randolph, Brad Pitt. Really big cast we have here. And this movie is about a romance novelist who kind of feels like her career is coming to an end. The spark has officially died. It's also been a couple years since her geographer, adventurer, archaeologist, whatever title, husband has passed away, so it's kind of been like a slow build to like this point in her career where it's like, is it even worth it? Her cover model, Alan, for every single book, played by Channing Tatum, is getting all of the attention anyways. He steals the spotlight, refuses to kind of give it back, and it's kind of this frustrating point in her life. And then all of a sudden, Daniel Radcliffe comes swooping in. He's the son of this really rich guy, and he wants to make a name for himself. He's trying to find this lost city, and because Sandra Bullock used to be married to a guy who was looking into it himself, she has written some details in her book that are strangely similar to what he's after. So he takes her to this island where he's trying to find this thing. Channing Tatum witnesses the kidnapping, so he travels himself to go get her, and it becomes a whirlwind adventure to get back home together, and maybe they'll fall in love despite their comedic differences. Before I begin the rest of this review, I just want to give a quick shout out to a buddy of mine, 22 Tiger Dude. For the past couple years, me, him, and a couple other guys who are all friends have come together to predict the Oscar winners. And then we also do results videos after the big ceremonies. Usually it's like the day after. And we have done that again. The video is now up on his channel, so just search his name, 22 Tiger Dude, and watch our predictions video. Subscribe to his channel so you won't miss the results video if you really want to keep up to date with like what I think of the Oscar wins, what I think will win, some minor opinions of just the movies in general when they come up. It's just a really fun time. I have fun doing them all the time and rewatching them at certain points, so if you could give that a watch, that would really mean a lot to me. On with the review. I didn't really go into this movie very excited. It was one of those where I watched the trailer. It was like, okay, you got something here, but you know, some of these comedy movies, especially like rom-coms, they can kind of go either way for me. You know, they definitely have their audience, and that's totally fine. I can totally see that. It's just, if I'm talking about me personally, which I always do with this channel, you know, I don't try to like push opinions onto everyone that are just specifically my own and try to pass it off as fact. So this is just me. Like, I'm very particular when it comes to comedy. So I just kind of went in thinking this could go either way. The trailer was kind of a mixed bag for me. Let's just see what we got. And I definitely can say that it was not a bad watch. There are definitely points where I was actually genuinely surprised at the care being put into the story. Like, I was genuinely kind of surprised because I didn't know going in that they were going to have Sandra Bullock's character kind of be dealing with this theme of grief. And I didn't know, especially in the third act, that that was going to be like a thing that they were specifically going to focus on, healing this character and kind of, you know, bringing her back to the real world instead of hiding away in her home, just writing books that she hates. As well as being able to, you know, with that opening back up, being able to see the beauty in people instead of just, you know, oh, they are this kind of person because I've deduced that just by looking at them. And seeing the beauty that kind of lies within, you know, I really liked that part of it. I was surprised that the movie was going to have any kind of theme like that. The action sequences, whenever they pop up, are fairly enjoyable too. They're, you know, helmed pretty solidly. There's definitely some funny moments here. The chemistry between Bullock and Tatum is very good. Sandra Bullock is a pro, so, you know, that's kind of like, you know, expected that she's going to, you know, be fine in this. You know, she's done so many other comedies where, you know, her kind of style to it works, and it works here as well. And Channing Tatum, he, you know, he's been proving himself, you know, ever since like the 21 Jump Street movies, where he's been able to show like, hey, just because I'm a real handsome guy doesn't mean I'm not talented. Look at me be hilarious. And he's kind of continued that in so many other roles, and this is a really good use of his talents because he captures like himbo, dumb guy, but big heart energy really well. And there's definitely certain comedic bits here that definitely had me laughing. That being said though, I can't say this movie's very consistent with its humor. Like I said, it's mostly like every once in a while you'll get something real good. There's a couple chuckles. I hate to say it, but it's mostly a lot of comedy that fell flat for me. It's a number of things. Sometimes it's just the jokes themselves, you know, weren't the best as far as like their execution or just in general. Sometimes it's just, this is just a me thing. I notice when a camera starts to like pan away and they bring in the actors once again to dub in, like, here's some extra jokes now that the camera is, you know, facing their backs and you can't see their mouths. And that I noticed that, and it happened quite a few times where they used that same trick, and I was like, okay, come on, guys, this is taking me out of the movie. I'm sure it's not affecting anybody, but me personally, I noticed this. I see what you're doing. Other times it's because of the like editing and like implementing of the jokes in the script themselves. Like I definitely got a sense of like there's a lot of improv going on here. A lot of characters just trying to say the funniest thing, keep it going for as long as they can. And there's moments where just the filmmaking kind of reflects that kind of like choppy nature of them just trying to work a joke out and just trying to keep going, so every once in a while that will make itself evident for me when I was watching this movie. So I would say that like a huge hindrance on the movie, at least for me, is a lot of the humor. At points where it works, but there's just a lot of like moments in the theater where like you'd get a couple people chuckling, but there'd be like this awkward kind of silence of, oh man, it's not really hitting, but then other than that, I think there's also points in the screenplay where they kind of, skip over or don't go as in depth as maybe they could have. And like I said before, when you have Sandra Bullock actually having some kind of character arc, some kind of theme, I was actually surprised at the kind of care they were doing. I actually, to continue on to that, really like the setup for the movie. Like, yeah, a romance novelist, just so having these adventure books in her catalog, and there's parts of it that are influenced from like her now dead husband's archaeological, geographical adventures of some kind, and a rich guy wanting to use that. Like, it's actually a pretty solid idea to get things started, and just the humor that comes from a guy not capable, trying to prove that he's capable, and kind of falling flat on his face. It's a really good setup. There's a large part of this plot where I was like, this could be really special, and what kind of holds it back for me mostly mostly has to do with the script, I think. Like, Daniel Radcliffe, I actually really enjoyed in this movie. I thought he was a really, bright spot as far as comedy, as far as being a villain that you don't really hate. He's kind of, there's kind of this charm that Daniel Radcliffe has playing this guy where you're like, you know what, maybe he should get what he wants. He's kind of sympathetic, you kind of see where he's coming from. This character who is very jealous of, as he describes it, his brown-nosing little brother who just got everything in the family fortune. But even then, the first time we meet Daniel Radcliffe is when he's captured Sandra Bullock, and one of the first things she says is like, oh wait, I know your name, you're that guy who, and she dumps some exposition. And I think maybe it would have been better if we had a little bit more time in the beginning, kind of space out some of the daily life of Sandra Bullock, and then you start to include like what his family name means to the world that we are currently in, because there's even another point later in the movie where Channing Tatum's like, oh, that guy who, does this, and, gives us some other exposition, and it's like, maybe in the beginning there is that time where you can give a little bit more to the world and kind of flesh things out, kind of gradually let you in on this stuff. Because I will say, something that kind of took me off kind of immediately in the beginning is when they do like this book romance novelist Comic-Con type thing where there's like, this back room and there's like, expensive like LED lights shining everywhere with the smallest crowd I think I've ever seen, probably because of COVID. And these people who are just so stupid in the crowd, just like, we only care about the cover model. The cover, I don't think I've ever heard an instance where like the cover model is like an incredibly famous person, you know what I mean? Like, maybe that is, maybe Fabio did that, like, oh yeah, people know Fabio because he's got that look, but like, other than him, how many other like romance novel cover models do you know who get really, really famous? And everyone's just vapid, and they're just treating this side of like, Sandra Bullock's character's life as like just a complete joke and fantasy where like it's not really being satirical, it's just we're just trying to be wacky and goofy. Everyone's a goof. And I think a script that, someone was like trying to like, I'm trying to make a point with my satire here, or something that's kind of more well thought out, there's punchlines to some jokes that are gonna, it's gonna be kind of relatable. People will be able to, connect and understand. Instead is kind of traded for like this wacky, goofy, look, the cover model is getting more attention than the actual female romance novelist. Oh my gosh. And there's also this other side of the movie where Daniel Radcliffe, one of his henchmen, is a guy who like is already living on this island. He's very concerned about like local customs, local traditions, the spirit of the island. And it's an interesting idea, but in execution, it feels like an afterthought. Like they were like, maybe we should have a character who is on the bad guy team, but then comes around because of his connection to his ancestry, his roots, you know, all that. And it feels very much so like a, all right, well, let's just write some stuff, done. And they didn't go back to like actually like revise something and implement them into the movie well. It's just Daniel Radcliffe's, you know, introducing him like, this guy is a guy who lives on this island and we're all cool. And then they keep going, well, wait a bit, and then give that guy a camera, wait a bit, camera back on him, one more line, wait a bit, end of the movie. And it could have been better, especially for something as interesting as that, especially for like, as I said, the plot setup is pretty solid. So when you do have some of these missed opportunities with the characters, I think it does, you know, become noticeable. That being said, I did, you know, get some laughs. It is a pretty enjoyable, interesting idea for a comedy, and, you know, the chemistry between the two leads is fine. You know, there's some pretty, you know, funny bits, but I just can't, it's not enough for me to say I wholeheartedly recommend this to anyone who may have been skeptical at first, because I think it falls into some trappings that if you were worried about, you know, you had a right to be. That being said, if you liked what you saw in the trailers and you want to see a movie like this is like your favorite kind of movie, then go ahead and go see it. You know, you're gonna enjoy it. You know, you're gonna have a great time. This is a movie that's made for you. And like I said, this is just me talking personally. You know, every video I talk about, believe it or not, it's just my personal opinion. I can only speak for myself and try to recommend like, well, if you are this kind of audience member, you'll like this or you won't like this. So if you are a fan of rom-coms like this and Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum, you'll probably really like this. As for me, if you're more of a guy like myself who likes rom-coms, but when they're done really well, when they kind of sneak up on you and do something kind of different or really special, I don't think this will do it for you. I think it just has too many points where the comedy falls flat, just doesn't work. And just other storytelling opportunities that they missed out on that could have made this already kind of solid idea even better. And instead it's like, well, we had the idea and we just kind of went with it before really fully developing everything. I'm going to give The Lost City a C+. It's not bad at all. Like I said, I watched through it and I was fine. It wasn't torturous. It's not anything like that. It's just a movie that could have been better, and it kind of falters in some areas, but some people could enjoy it if this is their kind of movie. And that's it. But if you've seen The Lost City, leave in the comments below what you thought of it. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.